Hi everyone. So welcome back to another one of our critical reasoning live classes. Today we'll discuss explain the paradox questions. Now these are one of my favorite question types. These are extremely interesting. We'll follow a certain structure. First of all, you will be given a fact in your explain the paradox questions, right? And based on that fact, you will have a certain expectation. But then you will be given an observation which will be in contrast to that fact, right? And then we have to resolve the two. How is it that the two of them can coexist, for example? Or how is it that the observation can exist despite of the fact one? Yeah, so this is what we are going to do. And that is why it gets extremely interesting, because what you expect is not what you see. And then you have to think of a reason, think of a logic. Of course, pre-thinking is not really required here, because your expectation is going to be something different from the observation, right? So then why to waste your time in pre-thinking? You will just quickly go to the options and you will select the right one from there, right? And we'll just discuss how to select the right one. Okay, I see we have quite a few new people today. So let me quickly give you a roundup of how we're going to conduct this class. I will share a question with you. I'll give you about 2 to 3 minutes to go through it. Share your answers if you get, in case you're comfortable with, let's say, this is option A is the answer or B is the answer, then share that in the Q&A. We have enabled that, right? In case you have any problems, in case you have any issues, technical issues also, you can share it in the Q&A, no worries. Then I'll take up the question, I'll discuss how to think about it, I'll discuss the finer points of that. And then once we are done, I'll give you about half a minute to 1 minute to ask me any queries you might have, right? So then we'll take the queries at the end of the question. Then we'll go on to the next question. So this is how we're going to conduct the webinar. So let's start. Let me share my screen with you and we'll discuss the first question. Let's discuss it together now. Technological improvements and reduced equipment costs have made converting solar energy directly into electricity far more cost efficient in the last decade. So, this is where a little bit of general awareness comes into picture that will help you understand the argument a whole lot faster. So we know that it is, of course, getting solar energy, sun's energy is freely available to us, right? But converting it, the tech that is required to convert it into electricity is expensive, right? But they are telling us that there have been improvements and equipment costs have reduced. So that is why converting solar energy into electricity has become far more cost efficient in the last decade. Great. However, the threshold of economic viability for solar power. Now, look, they have given us a term which we do not understand unless we really belong to that field. So, but they have explained that term properly to us. That is, what is economic viability, okay, of solar power? What is economic viability of solar power? That is the price per barrel to which oil would have to rise in order for new solar power plants to be more economical than new oil-fired power plants. What this means is, so all right, so currently, let's say there is a certain price of oil per barrel, right? Let's say, I say that it is currently at a level of 20, yeah? Now, what is economic viability for solar power? It is the price per barrel to which oil would have to rise. So assuming that the economic viability value is higher, because he's saying that the price will have to rise. So it seems that currently it is less. So economic viability this is the point of economic viability of solar power. That is that the price of oil will have to rise to this level to make solar power viable. Now let's understand what that means. All right. So now let's talk about the cost of producing electricity from solar. Yeah, we know that sun energy is available to us free of course, everywhere. But getting the tech to convert solar energy to electricity is expensive, and that equipment cost is expensive, etc. Let's assume that that is $55. Now let's talk about cost of oil, production of oil. So now oil is not freely available, right? We have to pay to get the oil, and that is a huge cost. So I'll say that this is the cost of raw material, the cost of oil. Plus, the other cost is going to be a fixed cost. That is again your cost of the tech to convert. You'll still need equipment to convert oil into electricity, right? Let's say this is equal to $20 because this is cheaper. This is an older tech, and we know that solar tech is more expensive, right? So now this is your economic viability of solar power. That is, it is the price at which the oil has to rise, this price, right? So that both of them come equal, so that solar becomes economically viable as well. For example, if my current price of oil is $20, yeah, okay, let's make this 10. My current price of oil is $10, so that you don't get confused with the 20 of this. This is the cost of the equipment to convert oil into electricity, right? So let's say my current price of oil is $10. All right. So now what is the cost of producing electricity from oil? That is what 10 plus 20, that is equal to $30. It's much cheaper as compared to solar because solar is $1.55. So is solar economically viable? Do we say that it is not economically viable? It's far more expensive. Your output is exactly the same. You're producing electricity in both the cases, but here cost is only $1.30 per unit, let's say. And here the cost is $1.55. So it's not economically viable, right? You will not use solar power then. So yeah, so this, as in you will use this, you will not use solar power. So what is that value of the price of the oil such that solar becomes economically viable? When my price of oil, which is not in my control, of course, right? World factors, depending on the demand and the supply, etc., it keeps changing. It says if my price of oil goes to something which becomes equal to then the cost of producing electricity to solar, then it becomes economically viable. So then what should it be? I know this value, the cost of the technology of solar. I know this value, cost of technology of oil. So this is a calculated value, which is not the current price of oil, right? I say this is 35. How do I get this? I say this is 55 minus the 20. The cost of the tech of solar minus the cost of the tech of oil, because here this is zero. Raw material cost here is zero. So this difference is the economic viability of solar. This is that point of economic viability of solar power. It is that value to which the price of oil should rise. That if it rises to this value, then my solar power becomes viable as well. Then if I produce solar also, it will become equal or cheaper, doesn't matter, right? I mean, 35 is that point of transition. So my economic viability price is 35. Price of oil is 35. Note that it has absolutely nothing to do, since I'm saying that the price, this is price per barrel to which oil would have to rise. It implies that my current price of oil is something lower than 35. But is my current price relevant? It isn't, right? In getting this economic viability measure. All right. Now look at what happens. Let's say this is what was the scene a decade ago. Now they are saying that this has decreased. Your 55 has gone down, right? They're saying the improvements and reduced equipment costs have made this cheaper, right? More cost efficient. Okay. So then I'll say the cost of solar now, of course, sun is still, freely available sunlight. Plus, let me say this has become 45 because of the tech improvements. All right, now cost of producing electricity using oil. What is this equal to? Now, let's say this has become 45. If I say, okay, this is still 20, what should this be? My calculated value, that price to which oil would have to rise so that this becomes economically viable, what would this be? Can any one of you answer? Tell me, what should this be then? Right? What should this price be? The cost of oil. What should be my economic viability now? Now that it is cheaper to produce, electricity using solar, and if this stays the same, this is the tech cost, right? That stays the same. So what should this become now? Yeah, very good, Ridhima. Very good, Manu. Yeah, Peter, great. Okay, yeah. So then, perfect. Quite a few of you have told me that this should be 25. Makes sense. My economic viability should now go down to 25 because cost of producing solar electricity has reduced. All right. So this is what my expectation is. This is what I expect, right? Now, the surprising thing over here, the observation though is that this is unchanged at $35. It's saying that this price is still 35. The calculated value is still 35. It is not, it has not gone down to 25. This is surprising. I did not expect this. All right. So now give me a reason. Let's say when I'm thinking in these terms, give me a reason why this could have happened. How is that possible that this went down from 55 to 45, but this is still 35? Give me a reason. I'm waiting for you guys to answer. Give me a reason. How is this possible? But it is observed. It has happened, right? How is that possible? Okay, clarify. Yeah, yeah, good. Okay, tell me one thing. When I said if can I explain this by saying that the price of oil has dropped? Think about it. I have to add it up to 45, right? Cost of producing electricity using solar power is 45 now. This is total 45. Now, for this to be economically viable, right? I'm saying this is still 35. This is a calculated value, right? This, I say, how do I calculate this value? It has nothing to do with the current price of oil. How do I calculate this value? I say this price is this cost minus this cost, right? The tech cost of solar minus the tech cost of this. This is what it was here also, right? The tech cost of solar minus the tech cost of this gave me the economic viability cost. It is not the current price of oil, isn't it? I said current price of oil was 10. It's something lower, doesn't matter. I'm saying it has to rise up to 35 to make this economically viable. Now, if this has gone to 45, how can this still stay at 35, the economic viability cost? These two have to match up. These two have to match up to make this economically viable. Okay? Then this must have gone down to 10 as well. Only then can these two match up. Only then can your solar become economically viable, right? So the cost of the technology which you require to convert oil into electricity, this cost should also have gone down by a similar amount. Then it makes sense that this stayed the same. This did not reduce. Does that make sense? If this is 10 instead of 20, if this has gone down to 10, then again my economic viability factor will be 35. I'll again need the price of oil to go up to 35 for it to make sense for me to use solar to create electricity, right? So then the how can I explain? Anyway, we'll look at the options. Yeah, let's look at the options. So the cost of oil has fallen dramatically. Look, this has absolutely nothing to do with my argument, even though I know that this is usually the option that most people fall for in case they're not getting the correct answer. This will be the answer that they'll give. They'll select. Why? Look, why does it have nothing to do with my argument? Let's say my price of oil was $10. Let's say it has gone to $5. So what? Is my EV dependent on the current price of oil? It is not by, it has to, $35 is not the amount by which the oil price has to rise. $35 is the amount for which my oil price has to rise. Please keep in mind, this thing is not 35. No, it has to rise up to a level of 35. Look at it more carefully. The price per barrel to which oil would have to rise. The oil has to rise up 235. It does not matter what it is currently, right? Whether it is 10 currently or 5 currently, it's absolutely irrelevant. It has to rise up to 35. In my recent case, in my current case also, I'm saying that it has to rise up to 35. Whether it is 5 right now, 1 right now, 10 right now, 20 right now, does not matter. I'm not giving you the amount by which it has to increase. I'm giving you the amount to which it has to increase, right? So then it still is by 35. So the current cost of oil has absolutely nothing to do with it. My economic viability is not the amount by which I have to increase the cost of oil. It is the amount to which I have to. Why? Because look, this is a constant, right? Isn't it? Because this is obtained by this tech cost minus 20, this tech cost, the cost of oil will keep changing every now and then. Doesn't matter. Right? This remains same. Tech cost doesn't increase every day or decrease every day. Tech cost changes after a long time. So let's say a decade ago, this tech cost was 55 and this was 20. So my oil price had to be at the level of 35 for this to make sense, for solar to make sense. Now my tech cost has gone to 45 and the cost of oil to which I have to make it rise so that this makes sense is still 35. It means that my tech cost of oil has gone down. This has become 10, right? Nothing in my argument has anything to do with the current price of oil, except for the fact that the current price of oil is certainly less than $35, right? All right. Let's look at option B. The reduction in the cost of solar power equipment has occurred despite increased raw material costs for that equipment. Okay, so they're talking about the raw material cost of the equipment which was required to make the solar power equipment. We don't care about that. We just know that there has been a reduction in the cost of solar power equipment, right? That's all. What happened to the raw material cost and how did that still cause a reduction? We don't care. We just know that this 55 has gone down to 45, whether it was the raw material cost of creating solar that decreased or whatever happened. That we don't care about. So look at C. Technological changes have increased the efficiency of oil-fired power plants. This is our answer. As we discussed, that tech changes increase the efficiency of solar power plants. That is, instead of $55, it now takes $45 to create electricity using solar energy. Then, and now also what has happened is that tech changes have also increased the efficiency of oil-fired power plants. Now, instead of 20, they cost only $10. They have also become more efficient. That is why my this one, my EV factor, it is still the same where it was. If this became solar became more efficient, what happened was that oil also became more efficient. So I still need my oil to rise to a level of 35. Yeah. So yeah, this is pretty much our answer. Let's look at other two options also. Most electricity is generated by coal-fired or nuclear rather than oil-fired power plants. Now, what percent of electricity is generated through which doesn't matter, out of our scope, we don't care. When the price of oil increases, reserves of oil not previously worth exploiting become economically viable. This They're using the same term economically viable, but in a different context here. Now they are saying that initially when, like, for example, if you have a reserve of oil on a mountain, it's very difficult to get it out. So that is why it's not economically viable. It will be, more expensive to bring it out. But they say when the price of oil increases, then those reserves become economically viable. That is, you can use the, you because it is now the oil has become more expensive. So when you sell it, you will get more money. So even if it is involving more cost to get the oil, you would still do it. It's still economically viable. So this, they are talking about totally something very different. This has nothing to do with this economic viability of ours. Yeah. So this is also not the answer. So our answer over here is C.